votes are cast. Now the counting begins. The ads, the signs, the travel, the handshaking, the cheering, the speeches. For some, the days on the campaign trail are over. Others will pick up again for another long march to November. This is Action News Jack's Election 2022 Primary Night in Florida with Tanika Hughes and John Bachman.
Welcome to Primary Night in Florida, a special hour of election coverage. We are covering 61 races in all 9 counties in Northeast Florida tonight.
And you'll be able to see a crawl on the bottom of your screen, and it will update once those results start coming in. We have our team of reporters spread out around the region and here in the studio to get reaction from the candidates as the votes come in tonight.
And we will consult with 2 political experts, a Republican and a Democrat voice, during our coverage throughout all of this.
And the biggest race on the ballot tonight in Duval County isn't actually a primary.
In May, people who were gearing up for an election next year suddenly found themselves running for sheriff this year.
Back in March, there was some political chatter that Sheriff Mike Williams was interested as a candidate for next commissioner of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. But his official statement was,
"My plan is to finish my term as sheriff."
Then the story broke on May 27th.
Jacksonville's sheriff no longer lives in Jacksonville.
We'd later learn Williams had moved to Nassau County last year. Jacksonville's charter says if a sheriff moves out of the county, he's no longer sheriff. Williams said state law disagreed, but in the face of legal controversy, Williams chose early retirement.
I think I made the right decision for me and my family.
That decision led to the governor naming Pat Ivey interim sheriff.
Pat is very, very highly regarded.
And a special election on primary night to fill the job, knowing the sheriff picked this year will face re-election in 2023. One guarantee, Jacksonville will elect its second black sheriff, following Nat Glover's service from 1995 to 2003.
So that is how we got to this point, and the race for sheriff is already one for the history books.
Action News Jack's Emily Turner shows us where the candidates stand on the issues.
When it comes to keeping Jacksonville safe, there is one thing all 5 candidates agree on.
Build trust in the community.
Rebuild the public's trust.
Restore trust within our community.
Restoring the trust back. We build our trust back up.
But how JSO lost that trust and how the next sheriff plans to get it back, or where the candidates differ. TK Waters is the former chief of investigations and is endorsed by the governor, former Sheriff Williams, and a laundry list of other officials. But despite being fresh off the force after his June retirement, he's very clear about making the office his own.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem separating from something that I don't agree with. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything's wrong in the sheriff's office. I'm not going to tell you everything's right. I'm telling you there's improvement that needs to be made, and we're going to make the improvements where they need to be made.
Increasing the number of officers on the street and reducing their areas of responsibility are 2 improvements he wants to make, though he was by far the most supportive of the way JSO is currently run. Lakeisha Burton wants to set a different tone for the force, not just with the public, but within the agency itself.
70% of our agency have 7 years or less on the street, so we're working with more younger, innovative officers, working with the latest technology, and they need a new type of leader, a leader who's going to focus on the culture from the inside out of the police department.
She says investing in training, mental health, coaching, and accountability are the way to do that. Tony Cummings wants a cultural overhaul as well, but his answer is to create a public accountability office and a civilian review board, allowing for transparency with the public.
The public has to be there to guide us in everything that we do, from our training all the way down to when we start to execute warrants or even develop new partnerships with the community. They have to have a seat at the table from the beginning of that process.
Visibility is a cornerstone of Ken Jefferson's plan. He says he doesn't want to lead from behind a desk and says that same level of exposure should apply to the inner workings of the force as well.
My very first day in office, I intend to sign an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to partner with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, turning over to them every police-involved shooting as well as every in-custody death, have them investigate those.
Wayne Clark spent 30 years with JSO, then went on to become the chief of police at the airport and then Duval County Public Schools. He wants to improve diversity on the force and lean in to community policing.
What we've been doing in Jacksonville for the last 7 years hasn't been working, and we need to come in with a fresh look at things to make sure that we can make a difference for crime and other issues of trust in our city.
And that was Emily Turner reporting.
Action News Jack's Stephanie Bennett is covering the sheriff's race for us tonight. She's live at TK Waters' event in Tapestry Park. Steph.
Yes, Nico, I want to give you a look around here. You can see it is just a full house here tonight at TK Waters' watch party. Taking a look around, you can just feel the buzz in the air. Lots of hopeful and happy faces out here. Like Emily told us, Waters is the former chief of investigations at JSO. He told us in that interview that increasing the number of officers on the street and reducing their areas of responsibility are two improvements he wants to make. Now, according to a recent UNF poll, Waters and Democrat candidate Lakeisha Burton are the front runners in this race. So let's go ahead and take a live look at her campaign party, also happening right now, and I will be headed over there for the second half hour. So stick with us for updates from that. For local coverage you can count on in Jacksonville, Stephanie Bennett, Action News Jax.
Another big decision tonight is the Duval County school property tax ballot question.
Yeah, the question voters saw is fairly long and fairly complicated, but it boils down to this: a property tax to increase teacher pay, arts, music, athletic programs. It totals $100 more a year per every $100,000 assessed property value. A UNF poll shows that this would pass with 51% support, 45% of those voters voting against it. But there's a 4% margin, 4% rather didn't answer, and it is too close to call here. So we're going to have to take a closer look at this issue later this hour as we follow these results. The race for governor is at the top of the ballot for Democratic voters across Florida tonight.
There are 4 candidates on the ballot tonight, but the polls show that this is really a race between career politician and former Republican Charlie Crist and former lobbyist and Commissioner of Agriculture Nikki Fried. Action News Jax Jake Stofan sizes up the 2 leading candidates.
Fried pointed to her track record of winning. She's the first Democratic candidate to win a statewide election since Bill Nelson's last victory in 2012.
And as Commissioner of Agriculture, I also know that I can get into the rural communities, some of those areas that Democrats have not been able to go to. And lastly, you know, with the Roe decision, there's a lot of women, both on Democrats, Republicans, and independents, that are looking for that fierce fighter.
Crist leaned on his experience serving as governor, Florida Attorney General, and Commissioner of Education.
I'm not going to need any on-the-job training, and we need to get about the business of righting the wrongs of Desantis quickly, starting with a woman's right to choose. I mean, I think it's unconscionable that he signed a law that bans it after 15 weeks or whatever. But the worst part of it, Jake, is that there's no exemption for rape or incest.
Whoever wins is likely to be up against a Republican-held state legislature, possibly with a veto-proof majority. Fried says her track record as the only statewide elected Democratic cabinet member has proven she's able to find common ground.
We have received almost 75% plus of our budget requests, passing landmark legislation, my first session, on legalizing hemp in our state and other policy initiatives. So you've seen me already work across the aisles to get things accomplished.
Crist says he intends to use a carrot and stick approach to achieve his policy goals.
But you don't always have to exercise the veto in order for it to be a good negotiating tool. I can go to a member of the state house, a state representative, who comes to me and says, look, I got a project in my district at home, a water project. I don't want you to line item veto it out, Governor. And I'd probably say something like, well, you know what, I'm open to that, but I want you to help me restore the rights of former felons.
And here are some of the very early numbers in for the Democratic primary for governor. You can see Charlie Crist and Nikki Fried out front right now. Again, totals just coming in now. Action News Jax Jake Stofan talked to the 2 leading candidates on the campaign trail, and Jake joins us now. He's live at the Charlie Crist headquarters in Pinellas County. Jake.
Yeah, well, here we are. Things are just starting to get moving. You can kind of hear there was some music playing earlier, but that's since stopped. And we're expecting about 150 to 200 members of the general public to be filling up this room in a matter of minutes here. We're also, while we may have those AP numbers, the official, first official batch of results from the state will be coming in around 8 p.m. this evening. Now, Crist's team is confident they'll pull out a win tonight, as we just saw in those early numbers may have been suggesting they're right here. And one of the main reasons they say is his experience. Now, Congressman Charlie Crist voted today in St. Petersburg before heading here, where his team is hoping he'll declare victory later on tonight. Crist told me during a one-on-one interview the main difference between him and his opponent, Nikki Fried, is that he won't have to learn on the job. Now, Crist previously served as Florida governor from 2007 to 2011 as a Republican. Prior to that, he served as Florida Attorney General and as the last elected Florida Commissioner of Education. Since switching parties, though, Crist hasn't pulled off a statewide win, losing a U.S. Senate race against Marco Rubio in 2010, in which he ran as an independent, and losing again as a Democrat when he took on Governor Rick Scott. Crist now argues he has the best chance of beating Governor Desantis in November, asserting he has a message that will unite Floridians, not divide them. And we do anticipate hearing from Congressman Crist later on this evening, likely not until the race is called, though. Whichever way this turns out, Crist has declared that he will endorse Nikki Fried if she comes out the victor. We're still waiting to see if Nikki Fried pays the same courtesy to Congressman Crist if the election goes the other way. Now, we'll continue providing you with updates here from Camp Crist throughout the night, right here on Action News Jax. For local coverage you can count on live in St. Petersburg, I'm Jake Stofan, Action News Jax.
And Action News Jax Megan Moriarty is covering Nikki Fried's campaign tonight. Megan's live in Fort Lauderdale. Megan.
John, right now it's still very early on in the night. We are not seeing too much right now. We're just seeing some of her supporters start to trail into this election night watch party. We're still waiting to hear from Fried tonight. We are expecting that she'll be speaking in the next hour or two, kind of talking to some of the people who came out here to show their support for her tonight. And we'll continue to keep you updated throughout this hour. For coverage you can count on live in Fort Lauderdale, Megan Moriarty, Action News Jax.
So with Nikki Fried running for governor, there are two primaries tonight for Commissioner of Agriculture on the Democrat side. Naomi Blamire, J.R. Gallo, and Ryan Morales. There are two Republicans in the running for Agriculture Commissioner, James W. Shaw and Wilton Simpson.
Well, the winner of those two primaries will face off in November.
And there's also some drama tonight in the race for Florida Attorney General. A lot of theater to this year's political stage. Death himself has been seen on the road with the Hood Democrat Daniel Uhlfelder. He says current Attorney General Ashley Moody is too focused on cultural issues. Former Orange and Osceola County District Attorney Aramis Ayala is also in the running. She made waves after she was elected in 2017.
Fighting to change that system from the inside out.
She refused to seek the death penalty ever. She eventually formed a committee of prosecutors to review cases for potential death penalty prosecution. But she still went on to oppose the death penalty in many notable cases, including convicted cop killer Markeith Lloyd. A new prosecutor took over last year, and Lloyd was sentenced to death in March. Jim Lewis is a former prosecutor in both Orlando and the Office of Statewide Prosecution.
Our state government has been hijacked by extreme partisan politicians.
He now has a private practice in Fort Lauderdale. And here's a look at how the Attorney General's race stands right now. Aramis Ayala out front 42%, followed by Daniel Uhlfelder. He's the one that I mentioned in that story who dresses up like death. And then Jim Lewis, and behind there in third place. The winner faces incumbent Republican Ashley Moody in November.
Now, one of the biggest shadows over primary night in Florida is cast by a person who isn't even on tonight's ballot.
A closer look at the race for governor and Ron DeSantis' political future ahead on primary night in Florida.
And we are getting some early results in right now from Duval County and the election for Jacksonville Sheriff. Remember, you need 50% plus one to win today. Otherwise, this will go to a runoff in November. But you can see TK Waters with 41% of the vote, Lakeisha Burton with 35%. So as it stands right now, and again, it's very early, but right now, those two would go in the runoff in November.
A live look now at the parties for two Democrats running in the primary for governor. Charlie Crist's party is in Pinellas County. Nikki Fried's is in Fort Lauderdale. Now, Election Day has been smooth so far across Northeast Florida. One precinct in Jacksonville Beach did open late because the voting equipment was locked up, and the poll worker in charge did not have the key. And in a lot of ways, the number of voters who actually turn out will determine who wins these elections.
Yeah, Florida's pretty purple. There are about 5.1 million registered Republicans, 4.9 million registered Democrats, 3.9 million with no party affiliation, and about 250,000 people in third parties. So let's look at voter turnout across Florida. More than 1.6 million people returned mail-in ballots through yesterday. That number will increase. Another 613,000 voted early.
Now, we don't know how closely Governor Ron Desantis is watching tonight, but the results tonight will shape his race in November.
Now, we want to spend some time looking at what tonight means for the November elections ahead. And for that, we're going to hand things over to Ben Becker and our political insiders. Ben.
All right, John Tanika, we've put together a panel of political gurus tonight. All right, they're ready to talk and debate about what tonight means for November and beyond.
For the Democrats, we have Daniel Henry. He's been chair of the Duval County Democratic Party since 2019 and is the youngest party chair in Florida. For the Republicans, Jerry Holland is property appraiser for Duval County, a position he's held since 2015. He's also running for supervisor of elections, a job he once had for 10 years. And before that, he was on the Jacksonville City Council.
All right, I'd like to welcome in at this time Daniel Henry and Jerry Holland. Guys, are you ready to rumble?
Yes, we are.
Let's do it. All right, so Nikki Fried, Charlie Crist tonight. We'll start with you, Daniel. When you look at them, who has the best chance of beating Ron DeSantis?
I think the polls and the results that we're seeing so far shows a good indication that Democrats are betting on Charlie Crist to be able to deliver this coming November. And ultimately, I think what we're focused on as a party and what I think a lot of Democrats are seeing in these results is that Charlie Crist is the one to actually do that.
Do you feel that way?
I do. I think DeSantis has done a lot of things that are going to be distracting for him to be able to kind of build the coalition that he did in 2018, NPA voters in particular, and issues that deal with education, with abortion access, with how he's going to deal with inflation that's going on in the state are going to be huge issues this coming November.
Jerry, today the governor ripped into Nikki Fried. He said that she's been hyper-focused on him and said that's why she's going to lose. Do you think that could play a role in what's going to happen tonight?
Well, I think why the Democrats going to lose is he's the best governor in the country. That's why.
In the country?
In the country. Let me just say.
How? Why?
You look at how well we did during COVID and keeping the state alive, the success and the economic gain that we've had in this state. I think that's going to play out what he's been successful at in his 4 years as governor.
All right, let's talk sheriff. TK Waters, Lakeisha Burton, and I'll stick with you, Jerry. So on TK, you've been critical of this whole residency issue. You even took on the state attorney's office. What's your beef?
Well, the key was, again, we have an outstanding state attorney. Mine was just trying to get to the facts. I've been in elections. I had seen it one way, wanted it clarified, really for the benefit of my candidate. I want to make sure that he goes forward. He has the most experience of any of the candidates. So I really want to see TK come out of this, and I think he's got the best chance. But I just wanted all the matters cleared up.
Well, do you think it's cleared up? Do you like what you're hearing?
Well, we haven't heard everything. So, again, I think it'll be cleared up. I feel confident that Republicans got the best candidate and the one with the most experience. So I think when it comes to November, we'll be there.
Daniel, you're smiling over there. Lakeisha Burton, how can she take advantage of this if she can?
I think it's a huge issue. We're having a special election right now because a sheriff unsummarily got thrown out of office because he no longer lived in Duval County. And to have a Republican candidate that's been endorsed by that same sheriff still have these same residency issues and go a week without being able to answer that question is going to be huge on the voters' minds.
All right, leave it there. We'll join you back later on in the program. John Tanika, back to you.
All right, Ben, thank you very much. Some more results coming in now. In fact, we have 79 of 186 precincts reporting in Duval County. So we're closely monitoring the results as we've been following this. We've been following the sheriff's race, as we just mentioned, trying to get to that here on the board. But we'll continue to follow that. The other thing that we're interested in is that ad valorem millage tax, the paying of the teachers, and that has tightened up as well. So we'll follow the results throughout the evening tonight. State lawmakers have a lot of influence over the laws and policies, of course, in Florida.
Next, we'll explain how new district maps have helped determine the races that voters are and are not deciding tonight.
All right, mentioned the updated results in Duval County on the property tax increase to pay teachers more. Here's where we sit right now, about 54% yes, 46% no. This is including all of the early votes, partial votes now for in-person voting. And as I've been following all day with voter turnout, it's important to note Republicans won the day for voter turnout in person. So expect to see that number tighten just a little bit.
And to explain, the yes means that you want to raise the millage rate to raise teacher pay, and no basically saying you are against raising those property taxes.
Every 10 years, political lines are redrawn after the new federal census comes out. This year, Republicans controlled the process in Tallahassee.
And Democrats are not even offering up a candidate in a lot of local races. Take a look at a map of local Florida House of Representatives districts. The 3 purple districts will see a Republican and a Democrat running in November. A Republican selected tonight will likely win the 6 districts labeled with an elephant because there are no Democrats running. And a Democrat selected tonight will probably take the 2 districts you see there marked with a donkey because there's no Republican running. And 3 Republicans have known that they've won the House district 10, 12, and 18 seats for weeks because they have no opposition at all.
For the Florida Senate, you have no opposition against Republican Jennifer Bradley in District 6. That's the beige area in the map there. And no Democrat running in District 7, the one in pink on the map. The 2 purple districts are competitive. Some of these contested races include some familiar names in local politics. In State Senate District 5, incumbent Democrat Tracy Davis is facing former Jacksonville City Council member Reggie Gaffney. The winner will face Republican Vinod Kumar in November.
And another race featuring some familiar names tonight. Democrats have a 4-way race in the State House District 14. Kimberly Daniels is a former city council member and state lawmaker. Garrett Dennis resigned from city council to run here. Iris Henton and Mincy Pollock also in this race. There's no Republican running in November, but there is a write-in candidate. In the Florida House District 15 Republican primary, Duval Republican Party Chair Dean Black is running against Emily Nunes. There is no Democrat in this race in November. And a competitive Florida House race also features 2 candidates facing some political accusations.
Yeah, we're talking about the Florida House District 16 Republican primary, 3-way race to represent Jacksonville Beach and the South Side. And right now, Cayenne Michael, Lake Ray, Chet Stokes are there. No Democrats running in November, but there are 2 write-in candidates. And early results right now, not updated on our graphic, but Cayenne Michael, Governor Desantis' backed candidate, is in the lead early so far.
Now, we told you back in July that candidate Lake Ray was questioned about his decision to use taxpayer money to rent space in a building that he owns when he was a Florida House member between 2011 and 2016. Ray told us it's a common practice and actually saved money compared to what was being paid before that.
We also told you in July that candidate Chet Stokes made repeated claims that he graduated from Auburn University. We found out Stokes went there for 4.5 years but did not complete his degree. After Action News Jack's Ben Becker asked about it, Stokes' campaign website was changed.
Education matters, and tonight voters in Duval will decide if they want to raise their own taxes to pay for more for teachers.
And we're talking taxes and school funding up next on Primary Night in Florida.
This is Action News Jax, Election 2022, Primary Night in Florida. Here again are Tanika Hughes and John Bachman.
Well, as we mentioned, schools need money, and Duval school leaders say they need more to hire and keep good teachers.
So they asked voters to raise property taxes to find that money. And the ballot question voters saw is a bit long and complicated, but it essentially boils down to a property tax to boost teacher pay and arts, music, and athletic programs totaling $100 more per $100,000 assessed in property value. Action News Jack's Megan Moriarty explains how much it will cost and why educators say this is needed.
You've seen the signs around Duval County pushing voters to check yes to keeping our best teachers in Duval. It's a measure on the primary ballot pushing to increase property taxes to fund teacher pay.
There's been a teacher shortage in the nation for years, but the pandemic really exacerbated that shortage.
Tracy Pierce with Duval County Public Schools believes this could help in recruiting and retaining teachers. Right now, Duval County is short about 400 teachers.
What we've seen because of the great resignation resignation and because of all the needs in private industry, our teachers are being directly recruited by corporate America.
Here's how it works. If approved, the $1 mil property tax increase would cost homeowners an extra $100 per year for each $100,000 of assessed value on their house. The tax would go away after 4 years unless it's renewed by another vote.
A $300,000 house, kind of the average in Jacksonville, after all of the exemptions are taken into account, the average taxpayer would pay about $23 a month.
If the referendum is approved, salary for current educators would go up by at least $5,000. That's according to DCPS. It would also increase for new hires.
Teacher compensation is a big factor in retaining and recruiting teachers.
Amy Henderson with the Jacksonville Public Education Fund says a recent survey from their organization found that when asked what the biggest obstacle is in education, 40% of teachers said compensation, followed by class size.
By passing this referendum, we're investing in our teachers, we're investing in the students.
Some say it's not the time for this kind of tax increase with inflation at an all-time high. City Council members Aaron Bowman, Rory Diamond, Al Ferrero, Randy White, and Nick Howland all voted no during an April City Council meeting. The issue is now in the hands of voters after passing City Council with a 14-5 vote. For local coverage, you can count on Megan Moriarty, Action News Jax.
And right now you're looking at where the vote stands right now with 164 out of 186 precincts reporting. 54% saying yes to increase that millage rate to raise teacher pay. 46% saying no, they don't want their property taxes raised.
Also, 2 school board races up for election in Duval County. In District 2, Elizabeth Anderson, a current board member and former chairperson. April Carney there, endorsed by Governor Desantis in a tight race.
And in District 6, Tanya Hardiker, mother of 7 children who says she has no political agenda. Charlotte Joyce, a current school board member who often finds herself on losing side in split school board votes. She voted against removing Confederate names from schools and for a resolution thanking the governor for signing a parental rights in education bill into law. Let's turn now to our political insiders.
And Ben, school board seats are getting a lot more attention these days, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. For those of you just joining us, I'm joined by the head of the Duval County Democratic Party, Daniel Henry, and Republican Supervisor of Elections candidate, Jerry Howland. All right, school board candidates getting a lot of attention, fellas. Daniel, Governor DeSantis has endorsed 29 across the state, all right? Is he sticking his nose where it doesn't belong?
I 100% agree with that. These races are nonpartisan for a reason. They're supposed to be focused on education, families, and kids. But he's turned it into a litmus test in terms of the candidates that will support him and his agenda, and I think that's the wrong direction that we want.
Jerry, how important is a Governor DeSantis endorsement?
Well, obviously very important. All the candidates he's endorsed in Duval County are leading as we speak. And so very important. And the governor knows, the philosophy taught in the classroom today is the philosophy of the government in our next generation. So he knows the importance of education and importance of getting candidates in there that really understand that.
All right, John Tanika, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Ben, thank you very much.
And right now we're going to take a look right here at the congressional district lines that have pushed through the legislature this year. They're going to change who Northeast Florida sends to Congress.
And here's a look at how a seat that had been a sure win for Democrats for decades was erased.
They forgot to make sure what they were doing complied with the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
Governor DeSantis vetoed the original plan and got lawmakers to pass the maps he wanted, despite a protest in the Florida House chamber led by local Representative Angie Nixon.
Members, we are back in session. As is obvious, we have members who decided they wanted to hijack our process today.
The maps adopted by the Republican-dominated legislature erased the district held by Democrat Al Lawson. He's now running in the Panhandle.
We are not going to have a 200-mile gerrymander that divvies up people based on the color of their skin. That is wrong. That is not the way we've governed in the state of Florida.
The results are maps that in Northeast Florida heavily favor Republicans.
If you are on the left, that's going to be, you're going to have somebody representing you that you're not at all supportive of.
Congressional District 4 covers Nassau County, Western Duval, and Clay County. No incumbent, of course, and 2 Democrats are in this primary, Anthony Hill, and a veteran and former federal policy director under former Jacksonville Mayor Alvin Brown, LaShonda Holloway, a former federal worker and union activist.
There are 3 Republicans in the primary for Congressional District 4, and the AP has declared Aaron Bean the winner tonight with 70% of the vote. Action News Jack's Ben Ryan is live at the Duval Republican Party event at Havana Jacks tonight.
Yeah, Ben, the Republicans are expected to celebrate in many races tonight.
And John, and many in the Republican Party, as well as some of the candidates who are here at Havana Jacks, still waiting for some of these election results, keeping an eye on them as well. As you just mentioned, we learned from the AP that Aaron Bean has won the Republican nomination for Congressional District 4. One of his opponents, John Chuba, is here. Haven't heard much of a reaction to that announcement just yet. Of course, we're also going to wait to see if Chuba has anything specifically to say following those results. But again, with changes to the congressional map, as we mentioned in the past, Democrats say it's a concern, but Republicans say it is a change for the better.
The run for Congressional District 4 is on, and it all comes as the new congressional map pushed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis creates an opportunity to boost the number of Florida seats held by Republicans.
So it's been strategically created by including all of Nassau County and all of Clay County to ensure that they can win it.
The map made significant changes to Al Lawson's district as he is now running in the Panhandle. His district had primarily black voters. Daniel Henry of the Duval Democratic Party said it doesn't create fair representation for African Americans.
This city has a plurality of Democrats that make up the majority of the voting representation. African Americans in Duval overwhelmingly identify as Democrats.
Chairman of the Duval County Republican Party, Dean Black, said the old layout wasn't geographically sound.
I mean, let's face it, the district we had before was strung out from here all the way to Tallahassee. And obviously, with that long of a geographic stretch, the people will be better represented when they are living in the same geographic area, sharing the same issues.
John Rutherford is now running in the redrawn District 5. Aaron Bean, Eric Aguilar, and John Chuba are running on the Republican side for CD4, while Tony Hill and LaShonda Holloway run on the Democratic side. DeSantis pushed for the breakup of Lawson's district, arguing it was illegal gerrymander.
We are not going to have a 200-mile gerrymander that divvies up people based on the color of their skin. That is wrong. That is not the way we've governed in the state of Florida.
The new map shows, based off former numbers, it would also lean Republican.
The possibility after November of having 2 Republicans represent constituents that don't look like them, don't vote the way that they do, and don't share their same values, and that's a disenfranchisement.
Black believes that everybody will be represented properly.
I think black voters have lots of choices. I think we can look, for example, right now to the city council. The district we have now is more compact. It will better represent all of the voters of whatever racial or demographic makeup, and all citizens are going to be properly represented, regardless of the race.
And you can see, as of right now, at the stage, there's actually Congressman John Rutherford right next to Dean Black as well, the chairman of the Republican Party. Again, still keeping an eye on some of these election results with actually the Action News Jax election special on that screen behind them. Of course, as I mentioned, keeping an eye on those results, and we're going to make sure we get those up to date here on Action News Jax and on our website, actionnewsjax.com. Political coverage you can count on. I'm Ben Ryan, Action News Jax.
Well, I couldn't hear if Congressman Rutherford was declaring victory, but I can tell you in Duval, with most precincts reporting, he has a 66% lead in that race. Let's turn to Ben Becker and our political insiders now.
And Ben, it's unusual to have no incumbent on the ballot.
That's right. So let's start with Daniel Henry here. Daniel, we just saw you in that story talking about CD4. What's your assessment you want to add on to what we just heard?
I think this race in this seat has become such a gerrymander that the Governor DeSantis has been able to create. It almost makes it impossible for a Democrat to be able to be competitive in it, and that's the point. And for the first time in 30 years, Democrats and African Americans will have no representation in Congress in Jacksonville.
Jerry, do you think it's redrawn fairly?
Well, the key is compactness, and you've got to look at it and definitely say it is a lot more compact than it was before from here to Tallahassee. And that's one of the elements of drawing a district, is being compact. In fact, the argument the Democrats are making over the city council districts is they're not compact. So you can't have it both ways.
All right, John Sanika, back to you.
All right, thanks, Ben.
All right, let's take a look at some other local congressional races. Let's get back to that Congressional District 5 Republican primary there with John Rutherford with 64% of the vote. AP hasn't called that race yet, but he is running for re-election against two opponents, Leah Luna Lopez and Mara Macy. There is no Democrat running, so Republicans will be picking the winner tonight.
And the AP has called the race for Congressional District 6 for incumbent Michael Walt. He faced a challenge from Charles Davis. There is no Democrat running, so tonight's winner goes to Congress.
Now, U.S. House District 3, Democratic primary, Tom Wells, a Gainesville businessman and scientist, Danielle Hawk, a digital project manager from Gainesville. And those are the two Democrats running for the seat currently held by Republican Kat Cammack.
And the AP has called the Congressional District 3 Republican primary for incumbent Kat Cammack. And you can see there with 86% of the vote. Now, Manuel Asensio has pledged to serve only one term in Congress. Justin Waters, a juvenile law attorney, you see there with 14%.
All right, let's come back to the five-way race for Jacksonville Sheriff. Polling shows T.K. Waters and Lakeisha Burton most likely headed to a runoff in November. Action News Jack's Stephanie Bennett was at T.K. Waters' campaign earlier tonight.
And she's now at Lakeisha Burton's event in Arlington. Steph.
Yeah, guys, and it's also a pretty full house here tonight as well. Taking a look around the room, you can just see lots of joy. You can feel excitement, lots of happy faces here. Now, Lakeisha Burton has been a close second to T.K. Waters in the polls. Earlier, she told us she wants to set a different tone for the force, not just with the public, but within the agency itself, by working with younger and more innovative officers and to focus on the culture from the inside out. Now, she says she would invest in training, mental health, coaching, and accountability. Now, in the past half hour, we were live from T.K. Waters' party as well. Let's go ahead and take a live look there for you at his event, which is still underway right now. And back here live, a close look at those unofficial results. It shows Burton has close to 33% of that vote. We'll go ahead and keep our eye on these numbers for you tonight and bring you the latest updates. For local coverage you can count on in Jacksonville, Stephanie Bennett, Action News Jacks.
And 172 of 186 reporting, and the numbers roughly the same in that sheriff's race. Now, the balance of power in the Senate could tip this year.
Central Florida Congresswoman Val Demings wants to take Marco Rubio's Senate job, but first she needs to win tonight. That's next on Primary Night in Florida.
A live look now at the U.S. Capitol with the U.S. Senate evenly split between Republicans and Democrats. The November election could tip the balance either way. Now, a member of Congress with Jacksonville roots wants to unseat Florida's senior senator.
But first, she needs to win the Democratic primary. There are 4 candidates in that primary for U.S. Senate. Representative Val Demings was heavily favored in the polls, and no surprise here if you look at these early results. She's facing, though, Ricardo De La Fuente, Brian Rush, William Sanchez. Winner will face Marco Rubio in November. Action News Jack's Ben Becker takes a look at that likely matchup.
And Ben, the Senate race in Florida will be in the spotlight during the midterm elections, not just here, but all across the country.
Right. You see Demings, I think she has, 300% of the vote so far? I mean, I think it's over.
I think it's safe to say.
86% is close enough. But, all right, so Demings is expected to win tonight and face Rubio in November. It's developing into a slugfest.
Val Demings versus Marco Rubio, a winner-take-all heavyweight fight in November. The prize, a United States Senate seat representing Florida that could swing the balance of power in the evenly divided Senate.
I spent a lot of time introducing myself to the voters.
I did a Zoom call with Demings, who's from Jacksonville. She grew up in Mandarin and graduated from Wolfson High School. Demings started as a police officer and worked her way up to be Orlando's first female police chief. Then it was off to Congress for 5 years. Most notably, she served as chief prosecutor in former President Donald Trump's first impeachment hearing.
When police officers don't show up to work, they get fired.
The Senate race has featured plenty of pointed attack ads.
But Marco, you've got one of the worst attendance records in the Senate.
Since taking office in 2011, Rubio has missed 346 or 9.2% of 3,744 roll call votes. That's according to GovTrack. It's a nonpartisan website that collects congressional data. On average, Senate members miss around 2.3% of votes. The Rubio campaign told me he wasn't available for an interview. but Action News Jax caught up with him during a trip to Jacksonville.
Is there a reason you weren't there for the roll calls?
I was running for president.
Most of Rubio's career absences have indeed occurred when he ran for president in 2016. That's not unusual for a presidential candidate. For example, former President Barack Obama missed 314, or about 24% of 1,300 roll call votes in his 3-year Senate career.
She called abolishing the police thoughtful.
This Marco Rubio attack ad references Demings' appearance from a June 8th, 2020 interview on CBS. It was 2 weeks after video surfaced of George Floyd being attacked by Minneapolis police officers. In the interview, Demings was asked about her views on law enforcement reform, as Minneapolis was planning to dismantle and rebuild its police department.
The council is being very thoughtful in terms of looking at all of the services that police provide.
I asked Demings directly about the claims in Rubio's ad about her wanting to defund the police.
It is crazy, I'll say that again, to say that I want to defund the police. I am the police.
All right, so the polls are all over the place in this race. And a recent poll by UNF found Demings holding a 4-point lead against Rubio. Meantime, Demings is also outspending Rubio on TV ads by a 2-to-1 margin.
All right, well, we are getting word that Val Demings is about to give a victory speech. Carla Ray with our sister station WFTV is there in Orlando. Carla.
Yeah, what I can tell you is this has been one of the most expensive Senate races in the country so far. Val Demings raising more than $47 million, $10 million more than her opponent, incumbent U.S. Senator Marco Rubio. If you can take a look behind me, we're expecting Val Demings to come out to the podium any moment now to claim victory in this primary. We all know it's not what happens here tonight. It's what happens between now and November for Val Demings. We expect this to be a very heated race right up to the very end between Val and Marco Rubio. Now, she has deep roots here in Orange County, the former Orlando police chief, and she is running on that, saying, you know, in her campaign ads that she is the chief. Every time I've communicated with her campaign, they refer to her as chief, not Congresswoman, chief. And as we wait for her to come out and claim victory tonight, the mood here is that this is in the bag for now, but the real challenge again coming up in November. So we're just waiting. We got the 2-minute warning about a minute ago, so we expect her to come up to the podium any moment now, alongside her husband, Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings, who's also up for re-election and winning handedly as well in that today. So it is a joyful mood here tonight for the folks in this room. It is a who's who of Orange County politics here. And as soon as we get those images of Val coming out, we'll turn them around for you. For now, we'll send it back to you, John and Tanika.
All right, Carla, thank you very much. Our politician running behind schedule. Go figure. Yeah. Let's get over to Ben and our insiders now.
Now, Ben, how crucial is this race in terms of control for the Senate?
One word: critical. Hey, Daniel Henry, Jerry Holland joining me again. All right, Jerry, what can Marco Rubio do here? Because he's being outflanked by Val in this race.
Well, what you got to hope for often in these kind of races is what happens with the other races on the ballot. Does the Republican turnout come out as strong as it's been coming out? You know, what's favorable also on our side is the number of Republicans have outgrown the Democrats. And so he's got to energize that base. He's got to go. He's got to also energize with the Hispanic base that he's very close to. So he's got many opportunities to do between now and November. And he's a hard worker, so I know he'll do that.
Val Demings is from Jacksonville. How important of a role could Duval have in this race?
I think Duval is going to have a critical role in this race. She has an inherent advantage here because she has long-standing roots in our community, and I think she's a great candidate for us. But Marco Rubio, I think he's a weak incumbent in terms of how he's been able to perform in this election so far. And in order for him to be able to pull off another re-election to the Senate, he's really going to have to work hard, and I haven't seen it.
All right. Thank you, guys. John and Tanika, back to you.
All right. And we will be right back with another look at all the top races. And welcome back. Let's check out some more local results.
Here's an update on some key races for you.
And we are calling the race for Duval School Board District 6. That is Charlotte Joyce beating Tanya Hardecker.
And a look at the Jacksonville City Council District 7 special election to replace Reggie Gaffney, who resigned to run for state senate. 1 Republican and 5 Democrats in the race. 50% plus 1 was needed to win tonight. And so far, Reggie Gaffney Jr. is leading that group.
And Jacksonville City Council District 9 special election to replace Garrett Dennis, who resigned to run for Florida House of Representatives. 2 Democrats, 1 Republican running. 50 plus 1 vote is needed to win tonight. You can see where that stands. Tyrona Clark Murray with a substantial lead, 53%. Not ready to call that one just yet, but that's where we stand.
And in the race for Jacksonville Sheriff, again, here also 50% plus 1 needed to win. And at this point, lining up with the polls that we've been telling you about, looks like TK Waters and Lakeisha Burton are heading to the runoff in November.
And statewide Democratic governor primary, 4 candidates. Top 2, Charlie Crist with 60%, Nikki Fried with 35%. Winner will take on Ron DeSantis in the fall. That's 50% reporting. One more visit with Ben and our experts tonight.
Yeah, Ben, closing thoughts.
All right, Daniel Henry, your biggest surprise of the night is blank.
My biggest surprise of the night, that even with TK Waters having the vote lead, if you count all the votes in for the Democratic candidates that are running for sheriff, it outraises.
Wait, I just said that. You're just taking what I just said, man. You're stealing my stuff.
Listen,
Typical Democrat.
Listen.
There it is. I've been waiting all show for that.
I think this shows a clear trajectory of being able to take the sheriff's office in November, and the results that we're seeing on the screen really show that.
All right, Jerry, what do you have?
Well, I'm very happy the way it went. The endorsements of the governor all the way across the board produced successes. We're going to see some that have won it in this, so I see some great Republican victories out of this.
All right, thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Back to you guys.
All right. And we want to let you know we're going to keep you updated with the votes. We're going to have them at the top and the bottom of the hour, and you're also going to have the results on the bottom of your screen. And let's take a look now back in Central Florida, where the mayor there, Jerry Demings, husband of Val Demings, is on the stage. We're expecting to hear from her at any moment now.
So I say it very humbly that I count tonight's victory as a blessing for me and my family. But I also count it as affirmation from the residents, the voters of Orange County, that my style of leadership is what they have wanted to see for these past 4 years as mayor and these past 41 years of public service. Yeah. So when I was elected 4 years ago, there were a few priorities that I had, and I stayed true to those priorities. I said to everyone in this community that I would make public safety a priority in this community, keeping the people safe. I've honored that. I said to this community that we would do something about the transportation challenges that we have as a community.
I've been listening to Val Demings' husband talking, and we were waiting for Val. We'll keep you posted on that throughout the evening. And at the bottom of your screen, 15 and 45 minutes past the hour, we're going to have all the results as we get them on the Florida primary tonight on Action News Jax at 10 on Fox 30 and at 11 on CBS 47. The results then as well.
Until then, thank you for joining us.